Kevin and I have traveled to 60 countries together. We've shared a room and a workspace, basically every day for 4 years. No house with other rooms to escape to, no office, no commute that hands us 8 hours apart. I think before we met, except for during COVID, never stayed somewhere longer than a month. People assume the hard part of doing this as a couple is the romance, keeping it interesting. It isn't. The hard part is the operating system. Who books what, how you split money when you're not even in the same tax system, what happens when one of you wants 2 weeks somewhere and the other wants 2 days. So this is the actual setup we run, money, health, decisions, and the part that keeps it from feeling like a logistics company with 2 employees. One thing makes all of this possible. When Kevin and I met at a Nomad conference in Bulgaria in 2022, we were both already full-time nomads, and both of us were already sure we wanted it forever. So none of what follows is a compromise between a traveler and someone who secretly wants to go home. It's 2 people who want the same life. Start with money because it's where most couples either merge everything or split everything straight down the middle, and we do neither. We use Splitwise. We both used it independently before we met, which probably tells you something about who we are. The rule we landed on is simple. We agree carefully on the things we pay for together, and we stay out of each other's way on the things we don't. The personal stuff, restaurants, shopping, we run our own targets, and they're not the same number. This is the part people find surprising, so I'll let Kevin take it.
Yeah, so any flights, accommodation and stuff, that's all together. We have a budget for this throughout the year, and we look at it once or twice a year and to adjust it. The restaurant or the shopping stuff, usually, that's separate. So I buy my own clothes. I wear it until there's a lot of small holes in them.
A lot of holes.
Usually I used to cook a lot more and eat at home, so we compromise a little bit here because Caroline loves to go to the restaurant more, and that's still a place where we have a different budget, so sometimes we don't do exactly the same thing all the time.
Where the joint budgeting does kick in is the big shared costs, namely accommodation and flights. Same apartment, same flight, so we decide those together. Bansko is a great example. Every summer we go back to this mountain town in Bulgaria where we first met. We like it for a lot of reasons, but one of them is the cost. Our apartment there is €460 a month total. Split in half, so my share in a place we love, balcony, view of the mountains, is €230. Somewhere that affordable lets us bank buffer into the rest of the year for the destinations that aren't. Here's one I think is unusual. If you completely combine your finances, one joint account, everything shared, then everything's 50-50 by default. Kevin and I don't do that. We share some expenses and keep plenty of others totally separate, but healthcare is one we specifically decided to share. 50-50, all of it. Insurance, but also doctor's appointments, dental, and one-off things. We don't track whose body it was for. We plan to be together for the long haul, so this is one area we wanted to be aligned on. We treat our health as one shared thing instead of 2 separate line items. The next one is where being 2 people gets hard, because Kevin and I don't naturally make decisions the same way. I like to plan 3 to 6 months out. Kevin's version of planning is realizing his visa expires tomorrow and asking where there's a cheap flight. We haven't built formal rules around it, but we have come to an agreement on how it works. So I'm bringing Kevin back in. Before we met, what was your travel style like?
Usually I was picking a place with like a cheap flights to go to. Example, I was in Bansko, Bulgaria again, like here. And then, I need to go somewhere because I needed to be out of the country after 3 months for the visa. Where can I fly cheap from here? And then I flew there to any places I wanted. Like example, I went back to Georgia. Didn't really plan that much in advance for the next destination.
Versus I obviously like planning a lot in advance, so I always do the planning now. So Kevin doesn't have to do the planning, but he does go with the flow. So, and before we met, how long did you typically stay in places?
It depended a lot, but usually I was doing like 1 to 3 months maximum in one spot. But between these longer stays, I could do like a 2 day somewhere and like just fast travel. Maybe in 1 to 2 weeks, I could hit 5 different destinations or even more than that.
Yeah, and I think before we met, except for during COVID, never stayed somewhere longer than a month. During COVID, I did stay in Mexico for 6 months, but that wasn't really by choice. And then I would do some faster trips as well, but I think not quite as fast as Kevin typically. Like a lot of my stays were kind of like 1 week to 1 month. And so now we do a little bit like we've expanded my range, but maybe compressed Kevin's range a little bit, where now our longest stay every year is usually about 2 months. Which is in Bansko, Bulgaria, where we met. And we do a couple of faster trips per year, but often we're trying to do those when I take vacation from work, because I work for another company and I have meetings and I have PTO. I have a lot of flexibility with my full-time job, but not unlimited flexibility, because at the end of the day, I answer to a boss, versus Kevin has his own business.
More flexibility on what I want to do, but also that's why I was staying longer, because sometimes you need like deeper. You cannot always be moving, and you have to set and go deeper into work for a longer period of time. But then after that, yeah, it's flexible.
And then that also ties into our transportation choices sometimes. For example, going from Sofia to Bansko, Bulgaria again, there's a bus that costs only 10 euro, but it takes 3 to 4 hours, versus taking a taxi costs usually between 70 and 90 euro, depending on how good your contacts are. Kevin used to always take the bus, and when it was just me, I actually also took the bus a lot, but now being able to split the cost of a taxi and then have that time savings so we can work more and then have more time also to explore. I'm usually in favor of the faster transportation.
Yeah, the difference is not that big.
It depends on the
cost. It's almost door to door, and it's significantly cheaper.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, our goal is to take any frictions in our travel life together and turn them into roles for each of us and address them on a case-by-case basis, so that these little frictions don't continue to add up over time. The budgets, the healthcare math, the planning rules can make a relationship start to feel like operations. So we deliberately built in a counterweight. 2, actually. Every quarter, each of us plans a surprise for the other. One thing, 4 times a year. And once a month we do what we call a life dinner, where we actually sit down and talk through how we're doing, what's coming, and what needs to change. When you're running this many logistics together, the spontaneity and the check-ins don't necessarily happen on their own. You have to put the unscheduled on the schedule. One of my favorite things really is our quarterly surprises. We've had these going for almost 4 years now. So what's one of your favorite surprises I've planned for you?
I don't know if it's the favorite, but one of the most memorable, I think, was when we rented this motorbike here in Bansko last summer, and we went up the big mountain, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was pretty fun, but also crazy, because I had ridden motorbikes a couple of times before, like dirt bikes, but this was a little bit more involved of a situation than I had realized that I had signed us up for. And Kevin had never ridden a motorbike before, right? Which I also was not aware of. So yeah, it did end up being, yeah, he crashed into a tree. I hyperextended my thumb, which took, I think, 3 or 4 months to heal, and actually I don't know that it's ever quite going to be the same. So definitely memorable, but I don't know if I would actually call that one the best.
The most memorable.
Yeah, so and my favorite surprise that Kevin has ever planned was when we were in New Zealand, right? Kind of at the beginning of when we started traveling together. I had this little coffee shop cafe that I loved going to, and they made the best peanut butter cups of my entire life. They were like really big and so much peanut butter, and they were just fantastic. I loved them. It was on the way to the gym, and more importantly, it was on the way home from the gym. So now that I earned my peanut butter cup, I could stop. So for my surprise shortly after that, Kevin bought all of the ingredients for making peanut butter cups and looked up a recipe, and we learned how to make peanut butter cups. And they weren't maybe quite as good as that one. They had a really good recipe. We need to get their exact recipe. But our peanut butter cups are very good. They're better than store-bought peanut butter cups for sure. So that's something we'll have to do again soon. The point of these quarterly surprises isn't for them to be super elaborate or expensive. It's just to have quality time together. So it can be cooking peanut butter cups at home, or even, I think we actually joked one time when we came up with this quarterly surprise idea that we could spend one of our quarterly surprises measuring the difference in how many steps we take on on a walk together, because Kevin's legs are a little shorter than mine. I lovingly refer to them as corgi legs. And so every time we go on a walk, Kevin's like, oh, I hit my 10,000 steps, and I'm still like 1,000 steps away from my 10,000 steps. So anyway, we joked that's like a perfect example of something that's not at all elaborate or particularly romantic. But it still technically counts as a quarterly surprise. Here's the reality check. The part none of these systems actually solve. Kevin and I are together close to 24 hours a day. No office, no business trip, none of the built-in time apart a normal week hands most couples. We don't get couple burnout though, but it's not luck and it's definitely not automatic. The space has to be deliberate. I'll occasionally go to dinner with friends without him. We keep some separate hobbies. We make a point of having other couple friends in the Nomad community, so our whole social life isn't just the two of us. And especially in places we don't know anyone, none of that happens on its own. We have to actually build it. Again and again. Some things still don't resolve. I'd still love to eat out more if it were only up to me. Kevin would cook more, and neither of us fully wins that one. The version of this that works isn't two people who agree on everything. It's two people who've agreed on how to handle not agreeing. If you want the structure behind that monthly life dinner, the conversation that keeps all of this from drifting, I made a one-page version you can run with your own partner. It's linked below. And if systems like this are your thing, that's basically what my newsletter is. The real numbers and the actual mechanics behind this lifestyle. Links down there too. Then tell me in the comments, if you travel with a partner, what's the one thing you two have never been able to agree on? I read them all.